Mutual abuse. Is there such a thing? There's a mountain of sources, including books, articles, websites, and social media posts, insisting that it does not exist. There are also dozens of well designed, reliable studies that say that it does. Hi, I'm Michael Clark with the Ananias Foundation, and in this video, we're going to talk about mutual abuse. What is it? Why is there such a controversy about its existence? And if it does exist, how does that change what those who have caused harm in their relationship need to do? If you want to stop causing harm in your relationships, you're on the right path. This is Journey of Change, a video series to help you become the safe, loving partner you were meant to be. What do we mean when we talk about mutual abuse? A mutually abusive relationship is one in which both partners are behaving in ways that harm the other, with roughly equal frequency and severity. Sometimes both are committing acts of violence, such as punching, kicking, or slapping. Other times, both are using emotional abuse tactics, like name-calling, put-downs, or threats. In other mutually abusive relationships, one person might be emotionally abusive, while the other person is physically abusive. Though they may be abusing each other in different ways, each partner is still causing nearly equal amounts of harm. Both may feel they are simply getting back at their partner for hurting them physically or emotionally. However, they're both likely experiencing deep emotional wounds because of this lose-lose dynamic. Wait, you might be saying, I've heard that mutual abuse does not exist. Many articles, websites, and domestic violence organizations insist that it doesn't. On the other hand, I work with many domestic violence offenders who acknowledge they've acted badly, even abusively at times, in their relationship. However, in reviewing the definitions of abuse, they sometimes believe they've also been the recipient of abuse. Could this be true? How do we reconcile these two conflicting viewpoints? The message that mutual abuse does not exist is confusing to those who are working on changing their behavior, especially if they see their partner is also doing things which fit the definition of abuse. If mutual abuse does not exist, the rules they are being asked to abide by seem hypocritical if their partner is not also expected to follow them. Perhaps the worst part is they feel vulnerable and defenseless if they are to change their behavior without any expectation their partner will change theirs. Here's why the concept of mutual abuse is controversial. There is a dominant socio-political theory about abusive relationships and how those relationships are tied to power, control, and gender dynamics. However, these theories are not born out of the findings of research. The facts, supported by over 50 well-designed studies, show approximately 60% of domestic violence and abuse happens in mutually abusive relationships. While I won't go into the reasons why the evidence-denying ideological perspectives dominate the discussion on domestic violence, suffice it to say, it's not true, and it's not helpful. It makes sense to start with the truth about mutual abuse, that it's real if we're going to stop the damage for the massive number of people who experience it. Now, if there is abuse in your relationship, you may legitimately ask, is my relationship a mutually abusive relationship? The answer is maybe, but maybe not. Remember, 40% of abusive relationships are not mutually abusive. In other words, the abuse is one-sided. I encourage you to review the definitions of abuse and honestly evaluate your behavior and that of your partner. If you can confidently say you rarely do those things, you're not part of a mutually abusive relationship, but rather a victim. I encourage you to set boundaries and expect the abuse to stop. If it does not, leave the relationship, at least temporarily, if not permanently. You are not supposed to be treated in a hurtful and harmful way. It's okay to leave. Get help from a domestic violence organization if you need it. If your partner rarely does those things, they're not part of a mutually abusive relationship, but rather they're a victim. A word for you if you're the one causing most of the harm in your relationship. I know it's unlikely that you set out to hurt your partner. The Ananias Foundation resources are here to help you change, and your loved ones and you will benefit greatly when you do. I also know your partner is not perfect because they are human. However, their occasional display of some action on the abuse list does not make them abusive or you a victim. On the other hand, if your relationship looks like what I discussed earlier in describing mutual abuse, let's talk. We'll start by addressing your part, then we'll turn our attention to your partner. By definition, if you are part of a mutually abusive relationship, it means you are supplying some of that bad behavior. The first thing you must do is to stop contributing your part. That may sound blunt, but it's also tremendously empowering. Since the only person you can change is you, focusing on yourself gives you the greatest control. Here's how it works. The changes you make to your actions may positively affect how your partner acts. Violence and abuse often happen as the result of escalating tension between two people. You stepping out of that conflict and stopping your contribution and your part can be what breaks the cycle. In some way, this is like defensive driving. If you and your partner are crashing into each other at an intersection, you can prevent this by stopping. It may be annoying or even deeply hurtful that your partner is still running the stop sign, and it may be something the two of you need to discuss. But in the meantime, you've avoided a disastrous wreck. Any action that could hurt your loved one, even if they've hurt you, is never a good response. It accomplishes nothing. It's fine to defend yourself, but not to retaliate or to escalate the conflict. Two wrongs don't make it right. There are always better, more productive comebacks than getting even. Those responses require good emotional control so we don't just react, but rather stop and think through the best way forward. Do the work necessary to heal what's causing your part. In other words, clean up your side of the street. A sure sign of good emotional health is when we can respond to even hurtful situations constructively and without adding our own destructive actions. You may be thinking, but wait, my partner shouldn't be saying or doing these hurtful things to me. Of course, this is true. However, the danger in dwelling on your partner's role in the abuse is that it's easy to lose focus on your own part. Again, by keeping your attention on yourself, you're concentrating on the one and only part of the relationship you can control. This accomplishes two things, although admittedly, both are subtle. First, it takes the focus off of your bad behavior. If only one of you is yelling, hitting, or otherwise acting abusively, it's obvious who ran the proverbial stop sign, and it wasn't you. Your partner may or may not admit it, but they'll know it and eventually feel the weight of their own guilt. In other words, you cleaning up your side of the street puts the maximum pressure on them to address their bad behavior. Second, by setting an example and working on your own emotional control, you may inspire your partner to do the same. It's important to let them decide that for themselves, however. Don't push them into it. Trying to control others is never okay, and it doesn't work. If your partner is unwilling or unable to see their part in the abuse, then you have a difficult decision to make. Seriously consider removing yourself, at least temporarily, if you are in physical danger. Even if the abuse is emotional, the damage is real. Nobody has a right to do it, and nobody should have to endure it. Get help from a domestic violence hotline if you're concerned about making a safe exit. You may determine that your relationship is never going to be free of destructive conflict or unacceptable control. It's your choice to stay or go, and you should exercise that choice with your best judgment. You may still want a relationship, but hopefully you realize you don't need a relationship or want one that harms you. If you decide to break things off, don't simply blame your partner and move on. Remember, it was mutual abuse. Assigning all the baggage to your ex may seem like the easy way out, especially if they were physically abusive and you were not. Without taking responsibility for your own role, however, you risk taking your abusive behavior into the next relationship. Acknowledge your role in the harm and ask yourself what you've done to ensure it won't happen again in the next relationship. Make sure you've healed sufficiently so you can enjoy a safe, violence and abuse-free relationship in the future. I'm Michael Clark with the Ananias Foundation, and I hope you found this discussion about mutual abuse to be helpful. Take care, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks for joining me today. I'm honored to be on this journey of change with you, and I hope I've helped you in some way. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, be sure to hit the like button, share this with others who might find it helpful, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our future videos. For more resources, head to our website, ananiasfoundation.org. Until next time, take care and remember, change is possible.